Hello, good afternoon, Happy New Year. Now I said I'd do a live video, changed my mind. I'm just going to do a recorded video because a lot of people are doing different things today, so I knew they'd be busy and some people are probably still in bed. So I thought I'd shoot a short video, show you how I was going to do some marbling on the top surfaces of this Stug tank build. I'm a little gruff today. I had a late night last night, so bear with me. So that's the primered plate, the little headlamp on the front. I've already hit the back of these doors with some white, some off-white. Purely, I mean, you know, I'm probably not going to open them much, but if I do want to leave them open, then they've got a nice little white backing to them, which I quite like. Because the interior of the tank is white, so just fairly simple. Probably just going to leave it like that. So what I want to do is, I looked at some of the color schemes for this tank, and there's so many camouflage ones, of course. But I wanted to have it more interesting, more of a what if, based on real tanks I've seen. A slight mixture of shades and colors, but obviously keeping true to original color schemes. I wanted some German grey, I wanted some olive green, I wanted some desert sand. You know, it's kind of like a bit of a conundrum because I want to make it interesting, but I don't want to make it look too abstract. I found a color scheme of an unknown platoon in Russia in 1943, I think it was. And it was basically desert sand on the bottom, or it looked like desert sand, very dark. I don't know, I couldn't tell whether it was the illustration or whether it was actual real color, but it kind of looked like desert sand on the bottom and then a kind of German grey on the top. So I'm like, sweet. So we go with that. So we do know that they did have the Stug in German grey in 1943 in Russia at some point. Although the majority of them were the desert sand color camouflage, I believe. I'm not an expert by any means. It's definitely a kind of a learning process every time I build a tank, because as you well know, you can see I'm not a consistent tank builder. So it's interesting. So basically what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to do a bit of a what if based on some real life insignia, give it a little twist, make it interesting. It's a beautiful kit. I don't see any reason why I can't use some artistic license to make it look even more interesting than it already is. So with that all being said, there's the front plate, the driver's hatches. Now I'm going to build up a marbling effect on this, so we end up with German grey as a top coat, and then the marble goes through various shades. So we start off with a kind of a base color, which is obviously the dark yellow, the sandy yellow, the German tank World War II color, which is basically the overall base coat color anyway. You know, it's what I've done the hull. And then we're going to finish up with, we're going to make our way to German grey, which will be the top coat. And in between that, we're going to use Mr. Color grey green, thin down. I've already pre-thinned these. For the highlights, the Mr. Color 39 dark yellow sand for the base color. And then to transition between the sand and the German grey, I'm going to use the dark grey 1, Mr. Hobby 31. I could add another grey to that. I could add some white to it, or even some tan, because taking it from the brown to the grey with the tan is also a nice transition. It gets a little fussy, so 4 shades is normally a good count for me. Anything once you start using more shades, it starts getting a bit convoluted. So you'll see what I mean anyway. So let's start with. We'll start with the base here. So I've got this pretty thin, 50-50 roughly. And just throw a little bit of that on there. Like that. I've got my airbrush set at around 30 psi. It's kind of a regular air pressure for me. Excuse me. And basically, what I'm going to do with this is just a light squeeze on the trigger. And we're going to do squiggles. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I've just realized there was a little plan of mine. I'm going to do this quickly. I'm going to mask off this front plate because I kind of want to leave that primer. That's a little plan for later. So what I'll do is I'll just run some masking tape along that edge, like that. Yeah. Just like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's really just to keep the spray off that front plate. Even if I get a little bit of spray, it's not the end of the world, because I can go along that later and touch that edge up. So it's really just a case of protecting it right now while we do our marbling. So a little bit of tape along that edge. We'll go a little bit of tape on the lamp as well, because we don't want to touch that either. And some more tape on there. I would use thicker tape, but I don't know where it is. I've lost my roll of thick tape, so I'm going to use this stuff. But it will do. Does the job. Really messy. But I'm very much all fingers and thumbs right now. Like I said, I had a late night last night. Hung out with some friends at their house. Very nice. Ate steak. Didn't drink any booze. I'm not a boozer. Used to be in my youth. These days I'm quite happy with a soda. So just that's kind of, just pop a little bit around there as well, just around the edge. I want as little bleed as possible, really, because the paint does go everywhere a bit with a paint spray. So it is a good idea to protect as much as you can before you start throwing it around. So that's that there. And you'd be amazed, actually. I don't know, probably many of you who paint, it's always amazing how the overspray gets places you think you've masked, and then the overspray gets in there. It's quite amazing. All right, okay, cool. So that's that done. So now I'm going to start with this side with some very small circles. Just a gentle squeeze on the trigger. Get real close and then start circling, and then just release the pressure like that. There you go. So you get these nice circles like that. You don't have to go too tight with them, too small with them. This is something you can practice on your on an old kit or a piece of paper. You can see, just getting those circles in there like that. There, not worried about the edge too much. It's more kind of within the middle of the plates. You can go as close to the edge as you like. You can see now that's kind of like just building a nice base color tone like that, just like that. Okay, so we're kind of at that point there, like this. You can do that edge there like that there, and that now is our base coat pretty much done. So I'll dump that in there. Put that to one side. We can put that, in fact I'll do that now. I can put that back in the pot for later. Just like that. Right. So I'll just quickly clean out my brush here. Just give it a little bit of thinners. Take a cotton bud. Give it a little wash out like that there. Now because you're not, because obviously you're kind of mixing on the fly when you're doing this. So you don't have to clean your brush out like perfectly. You can just give it a quick sloosh like that. Pour that back in the cup because you can put that back in the pot of paint. That thinners. So basically I'll just spray that through now. Take a piece of kitchen towel. Give it a quick run round. Like that. And we're good to go. Still a little residue in the bottom. That's alright, that'll disappear when we come through. So now I'm going to go with the grey. With this grey here. And we're going to do the same again. So a little bit in the brush. Probably about quarter cup. And we're going to do the same thing again. So we'll just push that through a little, like that. And now, same again. Start circling, and you can go big with these ones. The initial one was quite small, but these ones you can sort of squiggle around and go a little bigger. You don't want to cover too much of that yellow that we put on. You want the grey to kind of like be there, but you don't want it to overpower it. Okay? So just a little bit really. Like that. Like that. So you can still see that yellow, but we've got the grey now. Right. So that's that. Same again. Oh, you know what I did there? Really stupid. I put it in with the dark grey. That's alright, because you know what? Kind of disappeared. It's kind of disappeared. Same again. Clean her out. Next we're going to use white. We're going to use white and we're going to just do highlights with the white. We're not going to overpower it. I've got about 10 towels on here, so I can just pour it out like that. It's quick, then it'll dry and I dispose of it later. Very fast, slightly sloppy way to work, but it works for me. Everybody's got their own way of working. I'm a bit of a mad artist sometimes, so that's kind of how I roll. Yeah, so we've got our yellow, we've got our grey. So now I've got some of the white. So I'm going to take a little bit of the white in there, not too much, like that. And that'll just spray through, and I'll still have a little bit of a hint of the grey, but that's fine. Okay. Now I just want to do kind of highlights. So kind of want to go along the edge a little bit there, like that. Just subtly, like that. Then the top of this, here, real close. Just keep going until you get it as light as you want it, like that. And then we're going to go those little hinges as well, like there, like that. don't have to be too accurate with them, but as good as you can get it, get fairly close. Not too much pressure. Just hit them like that. Okay. So it's that white is actually mixing with some of that grey, which is nice. So it becomes a very light grey. Okay, and now what we can do with this is we can do a little bit of the white on the top plates like this, like that, and there like that. Same with these ones. So you get a nice, slightly lighter shade on the tops of these opening doors, like that, and then maybe along the back there, like that end one, just that edge. Let's hit that as well, like that, like that. I'm going to do that front one again, just like that. Like that. So you can see there now, it's a really nice kind of marbling. It's fairly even. You can be fairly random if you like, but to be honest with you, at this point it's quite nice to keep it as even as possible. That way when you do the top coat, everything will blend nicely, so you'll get a nice even natural look like that. Going to do those a little bit more. These little hinges, like that. Yeah, look at those little. Tiny little playthings, like that. Yeah. All right, so. Now it's fairly light, so we're ready for the top coat. So I'm just gonna blow that through. I want to clean this through fairly good now because I don't really want that German grey to be too light. Although it's not a major problem because we're going to put it on in a thin coat, so the marbling shows through. So it won't be a true German grey colour anyway. It'll have a kind of a marbly, tonal, multi-tone look to it. Which is kind of where we need to be at. Okay, so just clean that through like that. Give that a little spin round. Give it another quick spin like this. Some thinners and another cotton bud like that. We'll just clean that through just like that. There. Give that a little spin through like that. Yeah, and we're good to go. Alright, so what I've got here, this is my top coat colour, it's German grey. I was tempted to add some blue to it and a little brown, but I've got to be honest with you, I kind of like this colour as it is. I don't think it needs to have that. Oop. Sorry about that. I just knocked my camera stand. Yeah. So, what we'll do is we'll actually mix a little bit more of that. Now, because I want to do thin coats, and this is fairly dense, you need to thin it quite well. So we're going to go with about 50-50, maybe a little extra with the leveling thinners, Mr. Hobby. That's pretty much the standard for most people. So we're going to go in there with about 50-50. That's roughly about it. So it's fairly thin because you don't really want to make all that marbling disappear. You really want a nice thin coat of this when it goes on. So has a fair, like a sort of translucent look. So there we go. A little bit of that, not too much. And what I'm going to do is just really light coats, like that. Okay. Oh, she's a little. Oh, watch it there. Let's do that through. Like that there. Okay, you can see that it's just slightly disappearing. Like that. So you can see that grey, you can still see the marbling coming through. When it goes on, it's got a nice dark grey finish. Get around those edges. The edges I'm not too worried about. I kind of like the idea of leaving the edges primered, like a primer colour. The edges can be slightly darker. Okay, so with this, a little bit more in there, like that. And that edge, like that, and we'll just one last coat, like that, and that's enough. Edges like that, that's enough. So we've still got that marbling effect, but we've got that nice German grey. You can see the doors are slightly lighter than the middle pieces, so it looks like it's a kind of an uneven effect, which is what you want. Alright, cool. So now I'll hit that with the hairdryer. Off camera. It is a semi-gloss, which is fine. We can hit that with a flat later. Now we can whip this masking tape off here. And you can see now we've got that beautiful, be careful how we take that off. Don't want to break that lamp. But if you look now, you've got that nice beautiful red primer with that German grey. You've got the white inside the doors. Still got a little bit of that primer around the edge of the doors, which is nice. So you're basically just building up a very nice effect of, you know, different colours that really look vivid, really nice, that go well together, and they're fairly authentic, but with a very sort of with a slightly more artistic look. So there you go. That's it. And obviously after this, you know, this is all still a base. So eventually I'll work more with the primer parts, maybe put some shadow work on them. If you want, in fact, while we're here, I can, with the primer part, you can just literally hit it with a really gentle coat of the grey, like a dust, like this, like that. What that does is it gives you a slight effect of bleed. Like an overspray effect, like that, which is really nice. Makes those bolts pop, like this. So along that edge there. That's it. Cool. All right. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your day. Maybe I'll film some more later. Cheers.